What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Splatoon 3 video. This is going to be pretty much like a list of 5 tips to help you guys improve and help you guys with tower control as a game mode in Splatoon 3. I know there's a lot of new players and there's a lot of people that are finally getting into ranked now with being able to actually level up to the point where they can play ranked, or starting to actually start ranking up and they're kind of hitting a wall in a lot of the modes and kind of finding it difficult to actually continue and improve. So hopefully there's something in this video that can help you. There's actually a lot of these tips are from personal experience. Been playing a ton of ranked over the last week and a half, 2 weeks since the game dropped, and there's just a lot of like pet peeves and like stuff I see people do in my ranked games all the time. So a lot of that stuff's going on this list. If you guys like these types of videos, if you guys want more of these types of videos as well, I was also going to do these types of videos for like other ranked game modes like clams, splat zones, and rainmaker as well. So if you guys want to see this type of video for all the other game modes, let me know in the comments down below. And if this video does well, I might do it as well. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Let's get right into it. Number one, one of the biggest things I don't see people do, and for some reason, I don't know why it is a thing, but don't be afraid to stand on the tower. Now, I'm not talking about, like, you got to keep this in mind as well. Like, I'm not talking about standing on the tower 24/7 the entire game. You got to know when you're supposed to get on the tower and when it's a good time to push the tower and when it's a good time to just build ults and kind of wait to have an advantage for your team. There's a difference between standing on the tower the entire game and just getting killed, which is what's going to happen most of the times, and trying to play the tower when it's actually a good time and a safe time to do so and push the tower. The thing I'm getting at is I'll have people on my team that don't even touch the tower once the entire game. There is an entire team of 4 people. It depends on the role, yes, on your team, like what you're playing. Like if you're playing like a backline weapon, like a splatling, or like a bow or something, or like like a charger or something, and then you're in the backline. You're not really expected to touch the tower that much. You can when the rest of your team is pushing up, but like that's the only time you're going to be going onto the tower and pushing tower. But like apart from that, like anybody else on the team, if you're anybody else on the team, you should be trying to push tower as much as possible when it's safe to do so. I don't know how many ranked games I get into, at least from personal experience over the last couple weeks since the game's dropped, of people on my team that when it's completely fine, like the entire enemy team is dead, they just stand there and they just don't even push the tower. They'll sit there and look around, and they'll swim around, or they'll just try to ink area when they could be pushing the tower and getting a bunch of points for their team, or actually bringing the game back and possibly winning the game when at that point in the game we're probably losing. So that's just kind of the thing I want to put in this list as well, because it's kind of a no-brainer, and a lot of people seem to not do that for some reason. I don't know why. Number 2, probably one of the biggest ones on this list, stop super jumping every time you respawn. I don't know how many times people just super jump in. This is more of a lower rank type thing. Once you start getting to your higher ranks, it gets a lot less, because people start to actually develop game awareness and actually kind of use the super jumps more effectively and more smart. But this is mainly a lower rank thing. You're going to see this in a lot of your lower ranked games. And if you happen to be in lower ranks, maybe this is something that's causing you not to rank up and not to improve. The only time you should be super jumping in nonstop is when the game is in overtime and you need to constantly have people on the tower to continue the overtime counter to keep going and possibly win the game. If you are respawning every single time and you just jump in willy-nilly into like the enemy team when they're looking at your super jump spot into like 2 or 3 people every time and you die every single time, that is so much of an advantage to the enemy team. Every single time you just constantly get sent back to spawn and super jump out and get killed again, that it just gives them so much more of an advantage and just hurts your team more and more every time you do it. And it is one of the things that, like, especially in like the lower tiers that I've seen when I was ranking up through the ranks, it's just so common, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people can't rank up, is just because they don't know how to super jump properly, and they'll just super jump every time they respawn thing. It's there for them to use, and then they super jump into an entire enemy team and they get killed every single time, or like 90% of the time. And then they constantly are putting their team at a 3-4 disadvantage, and they're pretty much non-existent and doing nothing like for half the game. So don't do that. It's just one of the things you got to make a habit out of. Do not super jump every time. There's times when you can super jump in and when it's safe, And that's why you have a mini-map. Use your mini-map to actually look around and pay attention to where everybody is. And especially the enemy team, who's dead and who's alive and where they are. It's very simple, and it's something that you'll pick up on as you get better at the game. Number 3, play weapons that you are good with in tower control, or weapons that are good in the mode. Just mainly, this is more of a no-brainer one. I'm not going to talk about very much, but like if you're playing a weapon for the first time in a ranked mode, you're probably going to lose the game, and you're just throwing the match for your team. I.e., just like playing weapons that are also like throw picks. Like there's a bunch of weapons in the game right now that are also really bad. Like the sploosh is really bad. There's a few other weapons that are just really, really bad in ranked right now. The bamboozler, the goo tuber is pretty damn bad. It has a good kit and has potential, but overall in ranked is just really bad. It's not going to really help you rank up and stuff like that. So just play a weapon you are good with, and if you want a weapon that is good in like towers, like play a weapon that has like huge AoE, stuff that has Booyah Bomb, like stuff like that's able to help your team claim the tower, and like all that have huge AoEs and stuff like Trizuka, Triple Ink Strike, like a lot of those type of specials that are able to claim a tower, or like lock down a tower and stuff like that. Or blasters. Blasters are also really good in towers. If you don't know what to play a blaster, because odds are you're going to do pretty good, because that is the best game mode for those type of weapons. Number 4, avoid being team wiped or spawn camped as much as possible. Now, this is one of the things that happens sometimes. You can't prevent this every single time, but if you are the last person alive on your team and the rest of your team just got wiped and you're the last one alive, try your best to get away and try to stay alive. Most of the time, you can maybe stay alive or barely stay alive, and at least just buy your team some more time to respawn. And if you do get team wiped, try to prevent the enemy team from spawn camping you. There's a lot of games where I just go in and then my team ends up getting wiped, or I end up being the only one alive on my team, and then I end up going down shortly after. And my team just keeps running in one by one and just feeding the enemy team free kills as they start to spawn camp us. And then there's one person that's pushing the tower and to just win the game. Play with your team. If you do get team wiped, respawn as a team, regroup as a team, and then push as a team. Don't go out and feed them free kills while they're solo pushing the tower and they have 3 people spawn camping. That is not what you're supposed to do, and that just loses you the game automatically. I don't know how many people do that in the lower tiers, and even in a lot of my current games. We'll get team wiped, and they'll just run out and just feed free kills, and not push as a team and not play as a team at that point, just because they're desperate to try to defend. And then number 5, get as much of a lead as possible over the enemy team. Every single point in tower control matters. You may not think it does, but I don't know how many games I've had where we think we're going to win the game, and in like the last minute of the game or so, my team ends up screwing up major, or like ends up getting team wiped, or something really bad goes wrong, and then the entire enemy team ends up bringing the game back. And we probably could have won the game earlier in the match if we pushed the tower a lot more and we got more points for a lead. We probably could have still won the game. But since we didn't take that advantage at the time we had it, the enemy team ended up bringing the game back a lot easier. It's just one of those things. If you can get as many points as possible and you can get as much of a lead as possible over the enemy team in towers, the more of a chance you are going to be winning the game, just because it makes the enemy team more difficult for them to win every single point you get. Like, especially across like the checkpoints, there's 2 checkpoints on each side. If you can push past both the checkpoints every time, that just makes the game even more difficult, because those are kind of, they're checkpoints because that's how it slows down. That's kind of a way to defend. It gives you more of an advantage to defend if they try to counter push. It just makes so much more sense. I don't know, I see a lot of teams that can just, like, the reason why that's on here is because there's so many people in my matches that the entire enemy team is dead, and we could easily be pushing the tower, and then I'm up zoning away, and then there's somebody that's supposed to be on the tower, and then nobody ends up pushing the tower while the entire enemy team is being zoned away and is pretty much half dead, when we can just be getting so many points and we only push it to a certain extent. We still have a lead, and then we only push it to a certain extent, but we could add way more points and way more of a lead. And then sometimes those games, like I said, the enemy team ends up bringing it back a lot easier and ends up winning the game sometimes if stuff goes really wrong. So it's just a no-brainer. Take as much of a lead as you can and get as many points for your team as you can in towers. Just makes it more difficult for the enemy team to win and gives you more of a guarantee to win. And that is all I have for you guys. Like I said, if you guys like these types of videos, and if I missed anything, or if you guys got your own tips, let me know in the comments down below for everyone as well. And if you guys like these types of videos, leave a like, subscribe, share the video. If you guys want me to do these types of videos for all the other game modes, clams, zones, and Rainmaker, let me know in the comments as well. And depending on how this video does, I'll also take that into consideration. If this video does well, I also might do those types of videos. And I'll see you guys in a future video. Thanks for watching.